So first, let's go ahead and create a new file under the root folder. Let's give it a name as employee.cs and start typing code. The namespace will be this YouTube DI sample, and then let's give it a class name, public class employee, and give it a few properties. Let's say int ID, then say string a name, and say string department. We have a class, public class, with three properties, that is ID, name, and department. Okay, and then so this will be our model. Now let's go and create our data access layer. So again, go to the root folder and create a new file called employee.cs, data access layer. Give namespace, YouTube DI sample, and give it a class name, say employee del. Okay. Inside that employee del class, we're going to create one method. So that's a public. The method will return a list of employees, and let's give it a name as select all employees. Okay. And let's see. Okay, let's type it so that the usings are added properly. Then what we'll do, we'll create a list of employees, a dummy data set, a static data set that will return if someone calls this method. So for that, let's create an object of employee class, say list of employees equal to new list of employees. Okay, and then we'll add three employees to the list of employees. Dot add. Let's get the name. Dot add, and we'll add a new employee object, and the values will be ID is equals to say 1, name is equal to say Anupam, and department equal to say service. Okay, so this is one employee. We close this device. Okay. Similarly, let's go and add a couple of more employees. So 2, let's give it a name Priya, and say homemaker, and say Aishini kids. Okay. So we have a method which has a static set of data, and it will return this list of employees. Okay. So this is our data access layer. Now let's go and create a new layer as a business layer. So again, go and create employee business access layer.cs. The files, we start typing our namespace, and we'll start giving this class a shape. So first the name, employee BL, and then we'll write a method that will call the data access layer to get the list of the static employees. So for that, we need an object of this class in this business access layer. So let's create that first. The public employee DL, say empdl. Okay, and then let's write a method which will call that select all employees method to get the list of employees. So let's create a public method that is going to return the list of employees, and let's call it get all employees. Okay, and then what we'll do, so we'll call that or use that empdal object to create a new employee.del class object, and simply we'll call that method select all employees from that del layer or data access layer. Okay, and since this is returning a list of employees, we can just return this list. Okay, so this is our business access layer, and this is our data access. Okay, and this is our model. So what is remaining is to call this business access layer from the main method. In this case, this is main, but in enterprise solution, it will be the client, or maybe it could be the controller. Okay, which will call the business access layer. So here, what you're going to do, similar to the BAL business access layer, we're going to create a new object of this. So employee BAL, okay, equal to new employee BL. This is the initiation, and then simply employee BAL dot get all employees. Okay, so since this is going to return a list of employees, we can just put as all employees. And then what you can do, you can go through each object in the all employee collection and then do a control type. So emp dot will be emp dot name. Okay, so this will give us list of employees from the static data access layer. Okay, we have our basic structure of the application. Let's go ahead and build it. Make sure that there is no error. Okay, so it built successfully. Now let's see. Let's go ahead and run this application. So let run. So it will show me three outputs. The output that we expect: Anupam, Priya, and Aishini. Now this all works perfectly. But assume that for some reason, okay, or first assume that this business access or data access layer is a SQL server. So you have a SQL database where you connect with your credential and then get all this information from a particular ID name department. Now this works very well for years. Now there's a new database comes in called MongoDB, okay, or Oracle, or MySQL, or whatever. And the architect decided that, okay, we want to move from SQL Server to MongoDB because there is some certain advantage. Now, in that case, what will happen? There will be a developer who will be hired, and he will write a new connection between this application and the MongoDB database. Okay. Now, in that case, what will happen is the new developer will come and start creating the new connection class. Okay. This employee DL, let's give a different name. Let's say MongoDB.cs. Okay. And there will be similar class and everything. Okay, so public class and then the class name. Okay. Now, if we want to switch from this DIL SQL Server method to this MongoDB method, what are the places we need to make change? Okay. So first, we need to go ahead and change here because this is directly tied up with the employee DL. Okay. There. Now, this is one simple method, but if you think about a large-scale enterprise solution, there will be tons of methods or tons of places where you need to go and find out where we reference the SQL Server data access layer and change that, which is not only time-consuming but very difficult. Okay, and that's why there is a concept called dependency injection. So dependency injection, what it does, it actually decouples the concrete implementation of a class from its consumer. So in other sense, this business access layer is directly has a knowledge of what this data access layer has, right? So this is a concrete implementation. Okay, so it knows that it has this method which gets this data from a list and returns it. It knows. But in the dependency injection, there is a concept called inheritance, right? So the interface, what we will do, will make all this hidden from the consumer. So the consumer, in this case, the business access layer, doesn't have to worry about how it is implemented. Rather, it will only be concerned about what is implemented. And as long as this select all employees is implemented somewhere in the new class, is okay. So whatever function it will be doing is solely responsible of the data access layer. So let's go ahead and start making changes so that we can take advantage of dependency injection. So the first thing that we'll be doing is we'll be creating one interface. So let's go ahead and create a new file in the root folder, and let's call it employee dl.cs. Okay. So this will be the interface. So it will not have any definition or any implementation of the class of a method. Rather, it will only have the signature or declaration. So again, let's start writing the namespace, and let's give it a name. And let's give it a name as employee DL, and just write down the signature of the method. So in this case, list employee, and the name of the method, which is the select all employees. Okay, it will only have the declaration. That's it. Now, for any database connection, be it a SQL Server or MongoDB or whatever, any database connection that wants to get data from the database has to implement this interface. So let's go to this data access layer and make it implement this employee DL. Okay. So what this means is this employee DL implements this employee DL interface. So whatever method this employee DL has, that's definition that the body has to be present in this employee DL, which is already present. Now similarly, let's go to the MongoDB and make it implement this employee DL. Okay. Now if we go ahead and do a build, let's say .NET build, we'll get an error. It will say that employee DL MongoDB does not implement the interface member this method. Okay. So it's saying that this MongoDB class needs to implement whatever method this employee DL has. So let's go to this employee DL, and this is the method that we need to implement. So basically what we will do, for the sake of the time, we'll just copy this method, the implementation, and paste it here. Okay. Or let's make sure that all the usings are imported, and let's make a build again. Okay. So now it is successfully. So now assume that if you are getting it correctly, so we have two implementations of the same interface. One is from this SQL Server, and one is from this MongoDB. Okay. So this is say MongoDB. Now let's go to the business access layer, and instead of directly creating a new object, let's do some change here so that we can take advantage of the dependency injection. So first, what we need to do, we need to change this this employee DL to employee DL. Okay. So we are creating an instance of in employee DL, which is the interface, and then we'll have to create a constructor. So a dependency injection can be done in three ways: a constructor, a method, and also properties. So this is I'm showing the constructor dependency injection. In the future videos, I'll be also showing how we can do this using the property or method injection. So as you can see, there is a constructor and it requires a parameter. This is where the dependency actually exists. Now here we'll pass the interface. So employee interface and give it a name. Let's keep the similar name. Okay. And let's assign this emptal to this, whatever is passed through the dependency injection. Okay. Now this will hold whatever the interface is passed to the constructor or to the dependency injection. And then this all will remain the same except we don't need this line. Okay. So this becomes a loosely coupled business access layer where you don't see any instantiation of a complete or concrete class. Okay. All you see is an interface. Okay. Now let's go to the main method or the program.cs. Now here we are creating an object of business access layer, but we're not passing any parameter. But if you go to this business access layer, so to take advantage of dependency injection, we made a constructor which requires a parameter. So we need to tell the main.cs or main method that where we want to connect. Okay, is it a SQL server or do you want to connect to a MongoDB server? So here we can pass that type. So let's first try with the SQL server. So employee DAL method. This is our SQL server connection. Okay, and then rest will remain the same. Okay, so now let's go ahead and save everything and try to do a build. Okay, so build successfully. So now try to run this. Okay, so now we should give the same output from the SQL server from compare PCD. Now to make some difference, let's change here the name. Okay, so that we identify that this is from MongoDB. So now assume that this is our dependency injection already implemented, and now what we want to switch the database. So only thing that we need to do is to pass here the class name of this. So copy this MongoDB class, go to main method and pass it. Okay, save everything and then do a build. So build successfully and then do a run, and it should become the Mongo version of this data. So this is how easily you can, and how with the minimum number of line of code change, you can do a connection between the SQL Server and MongoDB and for any other data source if you use dependency injection.